Well, as the public becomes more outraged over our greedy politicians and their lavish expenses, Anthony Albanese was this week hoping they would forget all about it and focus on his wonderful under-16 social media ban, which he has labelled as revolutionary. Well, it was good to see one teenager stand up to the Prime Minister this week to tell him his new rules were silly. Have a look.
It's a bad idea because we're going to find alternates anyways.
Yeah, well, that'll get found out too. That's the thing.
Dear oh dear, there you have it. Joining me to discuss this and much more is One Nation MP Barnaby Joyce and former Speaker of the House, Bronwyn Bishop. Now, I want to ask you, Barnaby, what was the Prime Minister up to there? Was he gaslighted? The girl said she doesn't like it, and there's the Prime Minister spruiking it as a great success. What are your thoughts, Barnaby?
I think that you've got to take the good with the bad. Obviously, I have great sympathy for parents who don't want their children bullied. I think that's a huge thing, especially young girls on body image, to be quite frank. I don't want to sound too much like from the left, but I think both sides of the political fence know what can happen when people are just tormented at night. They're addicted to it. They don't get off it. They try to fight it. And if they're not successful, they can do harm to themselves. And I've unfortunately seen that up close. I've unfortunately with the social media ban, the kids are also incredibly resourceful, and they're going to get around it. What would be better is if we'd ask the major players, because they've got the AI, they've got the capacity, they know how the algorithm works. Look for certain key words, such as you skank, you dirty such and such, you fat so and so, and just say, well, where those words are, we'll just knock that correspondence out. It's gone. I think that would have been highly more efficacious.
Absolutely. Common sense there from Barnaby Joyce. You can't argue with that, Bronwyn. But you've made the point that a lot of this is to distract from the real issue, which is the expenses scandal. Now, you know all about this. You're the famous helicopter lady, the helicopter girl. I remember back then, I wasn't involved in the media. I remember Bronwyn Bishop and the helicopter. It was headlines everywhere. You terrible person. You took a helicopter ride from A to B to get there on time. What do you make of what is going on now? Hundreds of thousands, millions, some are saying, of dollars spent on these so-called family reunions, spent on lavish lunches and overseas trips. Tell us your thoughts, Bronwyn.
Let's look at it in the clearest of terms. There's one rule for socialists and another rule for everybody else. And he has to stand by, that's Albanese has to stand by his female minister. Otherwise, there's a rule for male socialists, which is better than for female socialists. Now, let's look at it. Wayne Swan chartered an aircraft from Brisbane to Bathurst to speak at a fundraiser for the Labor Party. I took a $5,000 helicopter in Melbourne to speak at a fundraiser for a Liberal Party. I repaid mine immediately because when I saw the amount, I was a bit shocked. Wayne Swan never repaid a penny. Mr. Miles, millions of dollars in his VIP aircraft with the golf clubs in the back, and was it a surfboard as well? Was that investigated? Was there outrage? No, of course not. Swept away, gone. And of course, Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke, who took his family with his first wife on a holiday to Uluru, $12,000. In 2012, came known in 2015 because of my helicopter. He repaid $8,000 in 2020, 8 years later. But he did not repay 1 cent of the $48,000 trip. He took a staffer to Spain and other parts of Europe. Not a penny of that was ever repaid, and that was not properly within the rules. So I just look at it with the greatest of cynicism. He is building himself a base. He's sticking up. When you've got a big majority, it's dangerous because there are too many people with not enough to do, all of whom think they should be ministers. And you can almost hear them salivating that she might go and then one of them might get the job. But by standing up for Miss Wells and standing up for the others, oh, well, if I get into trouble, he might look after me. So he's building a base, but that's the socialist base. But he has to watch out because when you come into the area of Miss Hanson-Young, whose husband is a lobbyist and is getting
Absolutely.
78
Well, I want
trips.
to ask Barnaby about that.
That's
So
different.
the Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young, Barnaby, spent nearly $50,000 of our money to fly her lobbyist husband back and forth to Canberra. Let's just quickly listen to Opposition Leader Susan Ley, what she had to say. She came out swinging today, I'm glad to say.
What Minister Annika Wells has done is scandalous, clearly scandalous. And the whole country is reeling from all of the information that they've received about what she has done.
So that was obviously about Annika Wells, but let's talk about both the Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young and Annika Wells. Barnaby Joyce.
Well, I think that I can understand why Bronwyn's furious, because it definitely was a different rule for her. And I remember the Mr. Albanese saying she had to be crowbarred to an apology. But we at least got an apology from Bronwyn. We've got nothing from Mr. Albanese nor Annika. They're just total hypocrites. And then, of course, you see nobody believes that Annika has done anything but the wrong thing. I mean, $1,700 for a night on the tiles. It's outrageous. And she, like, why is the taxpayer paying for a grog bill? Why? And of course, what you see now with Sarah Hanson-Young is that we're paying for a husband to go to work. That's what we're doing. And that also is outrageous. He's going backwards and forth because he's a lobbyist. He gets paid to lobby. And guess where he lobbies? He lobbies in Canberra. And guess who's paying for the plane ticket for him to go to work? The taxpayer. And that's wrong. But, you know, this reeking of hypocrisy, the Australian people have picked it. They're no longer questioning Annika Wells. They know that it's dodgy as all hell. They're questioning the Prime Minister.
So let me ask you, Barnaby, you were going to announce last week on this show that you were joining One Nation, but you lost your bottle and you left it till the Monday. But that's okay. I forgive you, Barnaby. But now you are with One Nation. Now you are with One Nation. What is One Nation's policy? Would you have the rules looked at again? What are you going to say in Parliament about this?
I think that you would see from Pauline Hanson, she's pretty frugal on what she's done, and the other guys are pretty new, and Malcolm Roberts is pretty clean. So I think between the lot of us, we're going up next week to have a discussion about it on the 16th. I think a good policy would be for people to submit their budget beforehand of exactly what they're going to spend per day, of exactly what they're about to do. I'm not the person who says, oh, well, they just, you know, you can't have them flying planes and you can't have them eat meals. Or no, they've got to do a job and they've got to do that. And the worst type of politician is the lazy one who doesn't go anywhere. They've got no travel budget and no travel expenses because they never leave their house. So I think that it's just got to be more diligence. And if you're busted, fess up.
Bronwyn, very quickly, just before we go, should the policy be? What should Susan Ley now be saying?
Well, she's saying the right things. Particularly the Hanson-Young stuff and other parts of the Wells stuff has to be looked at by the Prime Minister's Department. He signed off on Annika Wells taking that $100,000 trip to New York. He did that. So it has to be looked. It has to come back to him, and he has to look at it.